It's been an absolute monster of a summer in the year 2020 for the Nike Dunk line. I don't think anyone's done it better. Not Jordan, not Air Max, not Adidas, not any other brand, not any other line in the Nike stable has done it better than the Nike Dunk lines this summer. They have absolutely nailed every single pair of shoes that they have released. And if it's a Nike Dunk Low, if it's a Nike SB Dunk Low, if it's a Nike SB Dunk Low Pro, it doesn't matter. It's been an absolutely epic summer all around, and here we are, another collaboration housed in the sort of history of skateboard shops, this time coming out of Korea, but an awesome looking colorway, fantastic hits on the shoe, tiny details that elevate it above everything else. It's exactly what we've had so far in the year 2020 from the Dunk line, and we're getting it again with two shoes, and we're looking at one of them today as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Dunk Low Kasina road sign. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel des. Mainichi upstairs no de, mainichi meet kudasai. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. Tokyo, Japan, the nearest country to us is actually Korea. This shoe is based in Korea, and it might actually only be available in the 10 stores that Kasina has throughout Korea. Only in two cities, the northern capital city of Seoul, and then the southern, I think I'm right in saying down on the southern tip, Busan. There's two major cities. They have 10 stores across those two cities, and we'll get to those two cities later in this video when we talk about the hits that come on this shoe. And I'm pretty sure this one of the two is going to be dropping in store only. So this is the road sign version. Here's the pack itself. You can see there are two shoes there. There's the road sign, and then there's also, I think it's like the 80s bus is what the other one's called. And we'll probably take a look at that 80s bus one again at some other point. But this one, the road sign, is dropping on September the 18th, which is kind of like an Air Max pack. And I'm trying to remember, it's the denim. That's what it is. It's the denim pack. There's the Air Max 1s dropping on September the 18th. And then a week later on the 25th, you've got Air Max 95s and 90s for that denim collaboration. And then here, this shoe from the Kasina line out of Korea is dropping on September the 18th. And I think I'm right in saying the second shoe is dropping on September the 25th. So it's a sort of similar pattern there. But that's really where any similarity ends between those two collaborations. One's Air Max, the other one's Dunk. Different countries, different continents, different fields. And like I say, this Kasina pack is coming from what was originally a skateboard shop. I think I'm right in saying it started out of Busan and worked its way up to Korea, to Seoul, not the other way around. And it's very Korean. I don't think they have any international branches. I think it's just a sort of localized, like I say, in our nearest neighbor. And even here in Japan, I don't think there's any chance of us getting our hands on this particular shoe, at least at retail. Of course, at resale, things could be different. And that's, it's like I said at the top of this video, super in line with all the other dunks that have dropped across the 2020, not just the summer, but the entire year of the 2020 has had some really epic shoes. And I talk about this in my videos a bit, about how they made a good choice with this, which is the 711, and they cancelled that because that, to me, doesn't represent the Dunk line. The Dunk line is kind of a little bit more edgy, less center, and 711 is, you know, it's just a conglomerate brand, and it doesn't really need to be doing a tie-up with the Dunk line. Whereas these guys here, skateboard shop base, you know, coming out of the skateboard history, that's exactly what the Dunk line is. So I think this shoe really lights up exactly what they need to be doing, and it really just fits in with the trajectory of all the other dunks throughout the year so far. And speaking of that, I always make the point of telling, like, I hope, I'm sure, in fact I can guarantee that I learn a lot about shoes and sneakers from having the channel. That's one of the reasons why I did it, was so that I could continue growing my knowledge about shoes and sneakers. But I also hope, you know, I may be able to pass on some knowledge to people out there. So those of you who know this, you know, hopefully you don't mind me telling the people who don't know this, that zooming in on the Quarterline is one of the most important things to look at in dunks, because it's more, I think the Air Jordan 1s are more famous for it, that the Quarterline would come up and wrap itself onto the lacing system, and you'd have a bit of fabric that wrapped all the way up and then covered the lacing system at the Quarterline. But on Dunk Lows and SB Dunk Lows, but not SB Dunk Low Pros. So Dunk Low Pros, you get that wrap up on the top there, but Dunk Lows and SB Dunk Low only, you can see in the case of these guys, it stops short of the lacing system there, and that's a way to tell at least slightly that it isn't a Dunk Low Pro, an SB Dunk Low Pro. And in the case of these guys, it's just a Dunk Low, it's not an SB Dunk Low. And the difference there is, hopefully I'll be able to find it. I'll put up a picture of what the inside of the midsole looks like on an SB Dunk Low, which has a whole lot more padding and cushioning going on in there, whereas just a straight up Dunk Low doesn't have that extra bit of padding in the midsole and also around the sort of ankle and the tongue area. So it's just I shouldn't say that, but it says a standard Nike Dunk Low, not an SB Dunk Low, not an SB Dunk Low Pro. So let's have a look at the shoe and get into all the details on it, because it's actually quite a complicated little shoe. It looks very simple, and usually when I look at Dunks, I think about the fact that generally speaking they come in a three sort of color system, a tri-color if you want, but these guys here, when you look at them, it's predominantly just two colors. One is the base of white, and then on top of that what they're calling jade. Now jade tends to be thought of as being Chinese, and it's sort of culturally Chinese, historically Chinese, but Korea, well, North Korea shares a border with China, but culturally there's a lot of overlap between the Koreas and China, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of jade that goes into the history of Korea, South Korea, and probably North Korea too as well. So they're calling this one jade. Hopefully people won't get confused with like Chinese and think that there's a tie-up with China instead of being the Korean store Kasina with those skateboard stores across the country there. And so jade is the main colorway on there, on top of that white. And it's not just the color. If we zoom right in on it, you can see it's roughed up suede, hairy suede that we're talking about on here, and you can see that detailed on the old green screen behind me here, and it's one of the main features of the shoe. Predominantly it's a two-color shoe, which is somewhat unusual for Dunks, not completely unusual. I think we had University Red earlier in the year, which is a part of a 3-pack, and the other two shoes in there, I can't remember the names of them, but they were both, one was like a Brazil feel and the other one's something, I can't remember the name of it, but those other two shoes, I'll put the pack up so you can see them side by side. The University Reds were in just red and white, and then the other two shoes had three colors going on there, white, yellow and green I think, and white, blue and red I think were the other the tri-colors there. So it's not unheard of to have two colors on your Dunks, but it's the unusual of the two. But speaking of that, I am saying that it's predominantly two colors, because if we go around and have a look at one of the major features on this shoe, it's the heel, and that has that extra hit of blue to give you that third color, but it's an unusual color blocking for Dunks. It wouldn't normally be this way if it was a tri-color Dunk, but anyway, it is in blue. But what's even more outstanding on that is that it doesn't say Nike, and it doesn't have all caps Nike with the E all hunched over, because that's usually what you get with Dunks. Instead, what you have on one foot, the right shoe is Seoul, the capital city of Korea, and then Busan on the other one to represent the two cities where you'll find these stores in Korea. Very, very cool touch. I like little details like that on my shoe. Personally, not a huge fan of the blue. I think it kind of is too much of a contrast to the jade. It's almost like it's halfway between contrast and complementing, and they're better to go with one or the other. So a total contrast and do it in red, or something a bit more complementary and do it in, say, green, because that's close to jade. But blue is kind of halfway between the two, so I feel it stands out in a wrong way, if you know what I'm saying. What doesn't stand out in a wrong way is if you go down onto the bottom of the heel on the lateral side, which is the traditional place to see some branding on Dunks. We've seen it in many different ways. For example, the pigeons is the classic piece of branding on the outside edge, the lateral side of the heel on Dunks. And then if we flip back to today's shoe, you can see stitched into that hairy suede, you've got the branding on the side there in the same jade color. So it's sort of absorbed in there with no contrast whatsoever, but I kind of like that. It's kind of discreet. And then if we go all the way to the front of the shoe, to the toe box, a little touch that sometimes you see on Dunks but rarely is a little extra swoosh on the toe box on the lateral side there. In the case of these guys, it matches the white swoosh that we see see back further in the midfoot section of the shoe. The other shoe, the 80s bus that we'll look at some point, there's actually contrast in that little swoosh there, but as far as these guys are concerned, the road signs are concerned, it's a white swoosh on the side of that toe box there. And then it's not too far to go to that signature road sign element, so we might as well travel back. And it kind of confuses me a bit. I'm sure skateboards, they do have a sort of Americana feel about them, so it's maybe justifiable in those terms, but this is a road sign that is just seeped in American culture. You wouldn't see this in the UK or Japan, and I assume you wouldn't see it in Korea too. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, and road signs do look like this in Korea, so it's a bit jarring to me on such a Korean shoe that you'd get this American sort of Americana road sign on there, which I think I'm right in saying says 1, and I think it's the same for all the shoes that it says run, so Route 1, and it just, to me, it sort of doesn't go with the narrative of the shoe. And what I'm talking about is if you go up onto the tongues and have a look at the tongue branding up at the top there, and what you're looking at is Korean, and if you don't know what that says, I'm going to keep you hanging on just for a couple of seconds more, because I want you to think about what could it possibly say. What would it normally say if you were looking at a standard pair of Dunks? What would it normally say up there? Would it say Nike? Would it be Nike with a swoosh? Would it be Nike swoosh SB? You know, what could it be up there? But actually what that says is actually it's Casina. So if this was in English, it would say Casino on the tongues there, but instead of just saying the store brand, which is cool in itself, they've actually gone ahead and written it. I think it's called Hangul, actually, now that I think about it, is the Korean language with the Korean writing. It's called Hangul, but I might be wrong about that. But it is, you know, the Korean alphabet written there, Kasina across the top of the tongues, which I think is really, really cool. And hopefully I've been able to put up somewhere a picture on, you'll see it on the green screen, but also the text somewhere around me, so you can see it written in Korean like that. And it's a very cool feature to top off the rest of the shoe. And like I say, with the cities on the back, and with it being a Korean skateboard shop and the sort of brand, and then the brand up there in Korean on the tongues, I was kind of like expecting more from that road sign signature that hangs in Americana style down the side of the shoe. Last thing that I was also a bit disappointed in, because I expected more. And that's my fault for having high expectations instead of the brand's fault for not meeting them, is the outsole. Icy blue translucent outsole, very, very cool. Always like to see that on a pair of shoes, but I was kind of hoping you'd see something on the inside. I thought they could maybe have done something on the inside with more Korean writing, with the cities, with the name of the brand, with skateboards or something, but instead they've just gone with that translucent icy blue outsole that looks through to the midsole with no detailing whatsoever. But still, it's a very cool shoe, and like I said at the top of this video, the year of 2020 is the year of the Dunks, because they've done a phenomenal job, haven't missed a single beat, and they're doing it again on September the 18th with this shoe, because it's an absolute cracker. And I look forward to bringing you the second half of this set, the Dunk Low 80s bus, sometime in the next few days as well. For now though, it's time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content. If you're checking in from Korea, I think that's very cool. Hit me up with a comment down below. Anyone checking in, definitely hit me up with a comment down below. But for now, it's time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content. But as I do this every single day, like every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.